Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you like wood paneling, because if you don't, you're going to be disappointed. So, I've gotten a lot of questions. Well, I've gotten a few questions at least, depending on your definition of a lot and a few. So, we're going to take a look at them. This is How to Travel for Free, Part 3, I guess, perhaps, sort of. So, let's take a look here. The first thing is, do I really need any special knowledge? How did you prepare yourself for such a trip? Well, I might be considered a bit of a weirdo in that sense, where I just decided to go and figure it out as I went. And that was an excellent methodology, because nothing motivates your ass a little bit more than just going out and falling and figuring out how to fly as you're heading towards the ground. So that's a good methodology, and the one I highly recommend, because that will be the most fun, most exciting, and will make you feel the most stand up and tall and proud and all that sort of thing at the end of it. But in case you're not that cool, I would recommend watching a bunch of videos just like this one until you get to that point where you're like, I don't know if I can do this, and then doing it. Because just frankly, anything this ridiculous, you're just going to have to jump at some point. Now, there's one thing that I must say, that there will be a lot of people who will look at this and they will say, oh yeah, I could do that. Then they'll leave it there for the next 6 years. For the next 6 years, I'll be like, yeah, at some point I'm just going to do it. Yeah, that's what I want to do. And then 6 years will pass and I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then 12 years will pass and then they'll realize that it's too late. And don't do that. Either say, I'm not going to do it, that's stupid, and this guy is a damn fool, or I am going to do that and actually go and do it. So, that, that is the first bit of advice. Special knowledge, really, it is improv, jazz, cycles, just make it up as you go. So, that's the best thing I can say. I did a bit of research online about what to bring, some basic tips, like when you're picking out a space to sleep, make sure you can't see the road even during the day, so you can figure out how to, or you can make it so the police or whatever can't see you sleeping out wherever you are. So stuff like that, but for the most part, just make it up. Ha! Then the other question we have is a question about eating. People want to know how more about eating. So eating, there's lots of things you can do to eat. For instance, you can well, I already covered going up to restaurants and asking for food. That's a big one. You could also sit in front of restaurants and ask people for money for food, or ask people to buy you some food there. And as long as you're not a crackhead or an asshole or something like that, then you won't feel too bad about doing it. It's gonna be a humility exercise, that's for sure. But everybody needs a good humility exercise every once in a while. And plus, doing something difficult like that, it makes it's kind of like in Fight Club, where they he's obviously different story, but after getting in all the fights, he says that it's kind of like turning the volume down on everything you're doing outside of Fight Club, and it's kind of like that, where it's like, well, after you live with pretty much nothing for a while, you're like Jesus style. You can do pretty much anything, except don't be another Jesus. So, yeah, as far as eating, you can, most people aren't going to do this, so no worries. But, you can pretty much do anything. If you play music, you busk on the street. If, I've traded jokes for food. I've sat in front of restaurants and had a sheet of paper that I had been writing poetry and random doodads on, and then I would just say, hey, will you trade a corn dog in there for a piece of my poetry? And they said yes, and then they came back and they're like, can you sign it? And all that kind of cool stuff. Like I said, just go into restaurants and just ask. It works, especially if you're not an asshole. And I'm kind of glowing. That's cool. And just make it up as you go along. There's also homeless shelters at give out free food, and there's other travelers who for some reason have food on them, and then they'll give you food, and then there's people who used to be travelers that they'll see you walking down the street with your backpack, and they'll be like, that guy, and then they'll come up to you and give you food or give you money for food. It's a completely different world than you're probably used to at the moment. So that's good. You want a different world. Then the third question is probably the most important one, and it's about whether or not to get raped. And I highly recommend not getting raped, frankly. That would be the best advice I could give. Okay? Good. No, just kidding. So the question, and I get it a lot in regular conversation with people, is like, I have breasts, so you've got dangly bits. I have inner bits. Now I can't do it because I don't have dangly bits. And I say, just grow dangly bits. It's as simple as that. Just kidding. So, I've never been a woman. I never will be a woman, and I'm not a woman. And so can't really just take this with a million grains of salt. I've seen two methodologies practiced by women out on the road. One is to have a friend, a guy, or a team of people. I've seen teams of punk rocky women, like train hopping and all that crazy stuff in like rows, and that's crazy shit. It's cool to know that kind of stuff exists, but it's still crazy shit. Might not be the everyday practice, but there are those kind of people out there that kind of makes you like, wow. Anyway, there's that, and then there's also the weapons. You bring weapons, of course. That's the other methodology, which if you have to bring the weapons, and this is more just a joke, but it's not really a joke, but this is more like you're probably not going to take this seriously, and I wouldn't recommend this really. But I met, for example, I met a woman named Riz, either Riz or Raz, which is just an awesome name, and she had mohawk hair like this. It was bleached blonde. She wore big brown overalls, and she had a pit bull on her on a chain at all times, and wore a black turtleneck under the overalls, and she carried 6 knives and a taser on her person at all times, plus the pit bull. And that's a little crazy. But she was able to do what she did. That's not exactly what I would recommend, but that is an option. Bring weapons. That's probably not what you want to do. But I would think that the more reasonable thing to do would be to bring a dude or 2 dudes or 13 dudes, depending on your preference, and then go out and travel that way. That's probably better than just bringing a bunch of weapons. So there's also a lot of videos out there on YouTube that have that talk specifically about women traveling and are like made by women travelers. And like I said, I'm not a woman. Nope, not a woman, and probably not the person to ask for this sort of thing. So I would go and talk to them because they are women, and I'm not. So if this is helpful or at least slightly entertaining, do let me know. Also, I'm uploading music and stuff, so listen to that. And